Laurey. And was always just like that. We love. And I would call Laurey and I'd say, you know, I met somebody new today and I told them I was Laurey Masterton's sister. And they'd say, oh, we love. So I have a story for you that Laurey wrote for her book, which is called, the book was Elsie's Biscuits, Stories of Food, My Mother, and Me. And when her sisters, myself and my sister Lucinda and my sister Diane, when we read this story, we said, where did she grow up? Because But this story is a very lovely story, and we weren't there, so we can't argue with her. It describes what Laurey liked to call the golden thread, and that is the path she followed through adventures, and misadventures over the 2 short years of her life. And it's just a little story. But I have to read it because Laurey wrote it. And I want to read her words to you. The first time I ever saw a blue heron was at Blueberry Hill very early one morning. I saw it about 3 minutes before I realized my maple tree had blown down. Just the day before, the tree had been standing. It was tired and old and almost completely branchless, but it was still upright. I had left New York for a weekend, and after being away from Vermont for years, I had returned to Goshen, where Blueberry Hill Inn is, where we grew up, and I'd spent the day wandering around my old land. I ended up under the scrap of the old maple tree that remained standing, and the picture here is from the front of Blueberry Hill. This picture was done in 1957, and little shreds of it, you can see that is the tree that she's talking about. So the new owner of Blueberry Hill, Tony Clark, stood near, and he said, she won't last much longer, referring to this tree. And Laurey said, but you'll never cut it. Will you promise me, okay? I felt that that tree brought me up. I spied on guests from a spot in those branches. She wrote this in the book. I threw things at my sisters. Once when I was 8, my father caught me practicing really shifting the gears on our new Citroen, parked right under the maple's branches. I'd hate to see it chopped down, even if it's about to go, I said to Tony. Don't worry, says he, I'll never cut it. But that night, a huge wind blasted across the fields from way on the western side of Lake Champlain. The gusts had come from miles and miles, deep in New York State. My maple, the first thing in the wind's path, got knocked over like a twig. In the morning, out for a walk by myself, I saw my tree strewn, its branches a skeleton in broken chips, laid out on the wet grass. You waited for me, I thought. You waited for me to come home before you gave up. Now, of course, by then I was many years too old, too big for tree climbing, but seeing my tree smashed to the ground made me feel as if a part of me, a part of my history, had fallen and broken to pieces during that storm. I picked up a little chunk of wood. Clutching my chunk, I padded across the dirt into the apple orchard, past the blueberry bushes, and ended up, without having paid much attention, at Daddy's pond. This was the pond that he had planned, and we'd started building that summer when he was so sick. He'd be pleased, I thought. He'd have liked this pond. My mother would have been proud of herself for taking on the project alone. Yes, they both would have been happy to see the pond on a morning like this. The surface of the pond was smooth and clearly reflected the beginning of the dawn, the trees and the foggy wisps of morning. Even though we were close to the inn, it was still too early for anyone else to be awake. I was completely alone, and everything was absolutely still. Suddenly, I saw a pair of great blue herons reflected in the surface of the pond. Lifting my head, I watched as 2 beautiful birds flew up over the water, circled the pond, dipped in toward me, and then slowly, quietly, flew off toward the north. In a breath, they were gone. Still alone, I felt with absolute clarity that these birds were my parents, doing a final salute, a salute to the inn, to the pond, to the tree, and perhaps to me too. In all the time I'd lived in Vermont, I'd never seen one blue heron, yet here they were, a pair of them, seen just by me. In that moment, it seemed as if they were saying, we're here, we're still with you, we're looking out for you. We saw the tree, we know. This visit is to let you know that we're here for you if you ever need us. I shook my head, dazed by these thoughts. I was not someone who found this kind of meaning in this kind of thing. But that morning was different. I was certain I'd had a visit from another place. It turns out that that morning was the only time I'd ever see a pair of blue herons flying together, but it was just the beginning of a long string of visits I'd had from a single glorious bird. Those visits became markers for me, times when I needed a special nudge of comfort, a sign letting me know that I'm on the right track. And Laurey called this, and many of you know this, she called it the golden thread. For a long time, I'd see a great blue heron on the first day of an important trip. One flew across the bow of my canoe on a big trip to Canada. On the first day of training for a long bike ride, a heron traveled with me, flying ahead and around a bend in the road, waiting for me to catch up and then taking off again. I'm here. I'm with you. You can do this, it seemed to say. And after that, first time at the pond, a blue heron often appeared when a very important moment came in my life. There have been times when my heron visitor shows a sense of humor. On a ski trip out west, where that all of my trips in the past few years had started and ended with a blue heron sighting, I looked up from a plate of New Mexican tacos at a restaurant near the airport, where I'd gone to have lunch and wait for lost luggage. You know, a lot of Laurey's adventures started off with something going wrong. So there in front of the restaurant window appeared a U-Haul truck with a blue heron painted on the side. Cute, very cute. So recently I went through a time of personal darkness, and this would have been 2010. When was this book, right? I struggled with decisions, tried to find answers, began searching for some help. I found myself actively looking for the blue heron. Where are you, I heard myself saying. Where are you now when I need you to tell me if I'm okay, if I can do this? Why don't you fly across my car right now? But I didn't see any herons. I searched and I thought, and I gradually began to edge out into a lighter place. And then, just when I'd forgotten all about the heron, it appeared in a completely new way. My dog and I were on a hike in the woods near town. Coming around the bend, we saw a white-haired woman, off, I assumed, for a walk. She did not have as much white hair as some of us, so she always noticed that. I waved, but not feeling conversational, I kept walking. My dog and I hiked up the hill around the top of the hiking area, made our way back to the parking lot, and we saw the same woman again. And this time something made me stop and let her catch up and say hello. What a beautiful day, she chirped. I'm so glad it stopped raining. Mm-hmm. And aren't we fortunate to have these woods for our walks, she continued. I love these woods, but I also love the lake. Mm-hmm. She seemed pleasant enough, but why did I feel compelled to talk to her? I haven't seen any great blue herons for a great while, she said, clear out of the blue. We have not been talking about birds or herons or anything. But, she continued, sometimes they just need to go away for a time. They always do come back, though. Well, nice talking to you. And over the hill she flew. I stood, dazed as she disappeared. I'm still here, I heard. And you, my child, will be fine.
to stand and let's sing a song of peace.
Oh, I've been smiling lately, dreaming about the world is one, and I believe it should be. Someday it's going to come, 'cause out on the edge of darkness, there lies a peace train, take this country, come take me home again. Peace train sounding louder, ride on the peace train. Ooh, ah, ee, ah, ooh, ah, come on the peace train. Peace train sounding louder, ride on the peace train. Ooh, ah, ee, ah, ooh, ah, come on the peace train.
So here's what I invite you to do. I invite you during these next few moments to share God's peace with each other with a hug, a kiss, a look, a shake. But while you're at it, share a story of Laurey with whoever you're hugging. Let's share some peace and share some Laurey. Oh, yeah, give those stories a big hand. Yeah. You may be seated. So a little earlier, we read these ancient words about Jacob. And he was running away from his brother. All right, at Jubilee, we do Bible quizzes, and we can never keep up with the Baptists. And so here we are in a Baptist church. All right, so who was Jacob's brother? Esau. Oh, yeah. It's rubbing off. It's rubbing off. All right. And he was running from Esau because he stole what from Esau? Birthright. Oh, we are so good. We're so good. So here he is, rehearsed. And so here they are. Here he is running for his life. He's a scallywag. I mean, he's not an exemplary human being. He's one of the fathers of the faith. But he lied to his dad to get something that didn't belong to him. And he's running. And he's running like crazy. And so he comes to a place and says he put a stone under his head, and then he saw a ladder going up to heaven and angels going up and down and up and down. So here's this guy, stoned, no, lying on a stone. Either way, you're going to see angels. Either way, yeah. Angels going up and down. And then in the dream, he hears God say, "Know that I am with you and will keep you wherever you go. Know that I am with you and will keep you wherever you go. Know that I am with you and will keep you wherever you go. Know that I am with you and will keep you wherever you go. So don't postpone joy." A quote from the mystic Catherine of Siena: "What is the mind to do this? A God that consumes us with grace. So don't postpone joy." And Jesus was asked, "What do I do to inherit eternal life?" And he said, "You got to change and become like a child. Don't postpone joy." Don't postpone joy, not just because you're going to die someday. Don't postpone joy because it's here. It's present. It's ready for you. We cannot, wrote Joseph Campbell, we cannot cure all the troubles in the world, but we can choose to live with joy. Don't postpone joy. Don't ever postpone joy. This is my daughter, Windsor. When she and her sister, Kelsey, were little, I used to hold them up one at a time in front of pictures of my parents, their grandparents. My parents died long before they were born, long before, but I would hold them up in front of the pictures and tell them stories about my mom and dad. And I was holding Windsor one time. She was 5, 6, I don't know how old. And I was telling stories, as I did, of mom and dad, and I began to cry. And she said, "Daddy, why are you crying?" And I said, "Because it makes me sad that they can't hold you. It makes me sad that you didn't know them. They were pretty cool people, and you know, it just makes me sad that you couldn't have had fun together." And "Oh," she said, and she wriggled out of my arms and went off to play. You know. Yeah, that was a great daddy lesson, wasn't it now? And so a little bit later, we were lying in bed, Windsor here, Kelsey here, I had the book. Windsor said, "Daddy, did you know that dead people can see people they love?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Well, in God's house, there are these holes." And she did this. And she said, "Dead people can look out of those holes, but the only people they can see are the people they love." And I said, "How do you know this?" And she said, "I just do. Now read." So, I got an idea that you're being checked out. I got an idea that you're being watched pretty dang closely. I got an idea. Are you postponing joy? Are you being kind to the bees? Are you gardening? Is there an animal you love? Are you treating it well? Are you sharing with others? Are you feeding people? Whatever it is you have to offer. You walking down the street, sometimes you feel like somebody's following you. Could well be. And so, I say, do you want to honor this woman? Laurey Masterton, do you want to honor her? I suggest you do more than show up for her memorial service. I suggest you bless others as she blessed you. Take what she has given you, take the way that she has touched your life, how she has changed your life, and pass it on. That's how Laurey Clark Masterton continues to live in this world. I suggest to you that you pay careful attention on what she has done for you. And so, Laurey Clark Masterton, we commit your body to the earth. We commit your soul to our hearts and to God and to the infinite. Laurey Clark Masterton, you have graced us. You have graced this planet. Laurey Clark Masterton, you have granted us a holy, holy peace. I invite you to stand and let's sing a dedication.